Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he climbed down from his mining scanner. The red sun of New Haven beat down on the rocky canyon walls, making the air shimmer with heat. He had been working the mineral surveys for 3 years now, and he knew every ridge and valley of this place. But today, something felt different. His scanner beeped as it picked up strange metal readings from a narrow canyon he had never explored before. Jake grabbed his gear and headed toward the signal. The canyon walls grew taller as he walked deeper into the shadows. The air grew cooler here, which felt good after the burning heat outside. That was when he heard it. A soft, whimpering sound, like a hurt animal. Jake stopped and listened. The sound came again, weak and scared. He followed the noise around a bend in the canyon and stopped dead in his tracks. A crashed ship sat wedged between 2 rocks. It was unlike any human ship Jake had ever seen. The metal was black and shaped like a hunting knife. Scorch marks covered its hull, and one wing was completely torn off. But that was not what made Jake's heart race. 3 small creatures huddled together near the wreckage. They were no bigger than house cats, but Jake knew what they were. Everyone in human space knew about the HFY. The galaxy's most feared predators. Adults stood 8 feet tall with claws that could cut through steel. Their ships had destroyed entire colonies, and now 3 of their babies sat crying in front of him. Jake's first thought was to run. His second thought was to call for backup. But as he watched the 3 little ones shiver in the canyon shade, his third thought won out. They were just scared children. He approached slowly, making soft sounds like he would with any frightened animal. The cubs looked up at him with large, golden eyes. Their scales were still soft and pale green, not the dark armor of adult HFY. One of them, slightly larger than the others, took a step toward Jake. Jake knelt down and held out his hand. The brave little cub sniffed his fingers, then made a sound that was almost like a purr. The other 2 watched as their sibling allowed Jake to pet its head. Soon all 3 were pressing against him, seeking warmth and comfort. Jake looked around. The crash site for any adult HFY, but found only scattered remains. Whatever had happened here, these cubs were alone now. He made a decision that would change everything. He gathered the 3 cubs in his arms and started the long walk back to the colony. They weighed more than regular cats, but they clung to him like they understood he was trying to help. The larger one kept making soft chirping sounds, while the other 2 stayed quiet and alert. By the time Jake reached the colony gates, word had already spread. Lisa Chen, his mining partner, was waiting for him with a crowd of other colonists. Her face was pale with fear. "Jake, what are you doing?" she asked. "Those are HFY cubs. They will grow up to be killers." "Right now, they are just babies who need help," Jake replied. He walked past the crowd toward his small house at the edge of the colony. Commander Helen Brooks appeared in his path. She was a tough woman who had seen combat in the Outer Rim Wars. Her hand rested on her weapon as she looked at the cubs. "Morrison, you cannot bring those things into the colony," she said. "HFY are dangerous. Even as cubs, they could hurt someone." Jake looked down at the 3 small creatures in his arms. They seemed to sense the tension and pressed closer to him. The largest one made a soft sound that sounded almost like it was trying to talk. "Commander, they are orphans," Jake said. "I found them by a crashed ship. Their parents are dead. If I leave them out there, they will die." Dr. Martin Rodriguez pushed through the crowd. He was the colony's scientist who studied alien life. His eyes were bright with curiosity as he looked at the cubs. "This is amazing," he said. "No human has ever had a chance to study young HFY up close. Think of what we could learn about their species." Commander Brooks frowned. "Or think of what could go wrong when they grow up and remember they are supposed to eat us." Jake felt the cubs trembling in his arms. "They are scared and hungry," he said. "Right now they need food and shelter. We can worry about the future later." A long argument followed. Some colonists wanted the cubs destroyed immediately. Others agreed with Jake that they deserved a chance. Dr. Rodriguez kept talking about the scientific value of studying them. Commander Brooks worried about colony safety. Finally, a compromise was reached. Jake could keep the cubs, but under strict rules. They would be watched at all times. Dr. Rodriguez would study their behavior and report any signs of aggression. If they became dangerous, they would be removed from the colony. Jake agreed to the terms. He carried the cubs to his house and set them down in his living room. They explored their new home carefully, sniffing everything. When Jake brought them some food, they ate hungrily. That night, as Jake sat in his chair reading, the three cubs climbed onto his lap. They curled up together, making soft, purring sounds. Jake gently petted their heads and thought about what to call them. The largest and bravest one became Rex. The smallest, who had the brightest eyes, became Nova. The middle one, who had small spikes along his back, became Spike. As he watched them sleep, Jake wondered what he had gotten himself into. These were supposed to be the galaxy's most dangerous predators, but right now, they just looked like three babies who needed someone to care for them. Outside, the red sun of New Haven set behind the canyon walls. In the distance, Jake could hear the sounds of the night shift starting their work. Life in the colony continued as normal. But Jake knew that nothing would ever be quite the same again. The three cubs slept peacefully in his lap, their soft breathing. The only sound in the quiet house. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and questions. But tonight, Jake was just a man taking care of three children who needed him, no matter what species they happened to be. 5 years had passed since Jake found the three Kethvar cubs in the canyon. Rex, Nova, and Spike were no longer small enough to curl up in his lap. They now stood nearly 7 feet tall. Their scales had darkened to a deep green, and their claws could cut through metal when they wanted them to. But they almost never wanted them to. Jake watched Rex help repair a broken mining drill with the same gentle care he might use to fix a watch. The young Kethvar had learned to control his incredible strength so well that he could handle the most delicate equipment without breaking it. His large, clawed hands moved with surprising grace as he tightened bolts and adjusted settings. "Pass me the small wrench, Father," Rex said in perfect English. His voice was deep now, but still carried the warmth that had been there since he was a cub. Jake smiled and handed him the tool. All three cubs called him Father, and it still made his heart swell with pride every time he heard it. They had grown up learning human ways, human values, and human speech. But they had kept the best parts of being Kethvar, too. Nova was working nearby, using her natural climbing ability to reach high places that would be dangerous for humans. She moved along the canyon walls like a spider, checking the stability of rock faces before the human miners worked below. Her sharp eyes could spot problems that human scanners might miss. Spike was the most gentle of the three, despite his name. He often worked with the colony's children, teaching them about the local plants and animals. The human kids loved him, and he was endlessly patient with their questions. His spikes, which had grown longer and sharper over the years, were kept carefully controlled so he never accidentally hurt anyone. The three had become valuable members of the colony. They could do jobs that were too dangerous for humans, and their Kethvar strength made difficult work seem easy. But more than that, they had become part of the community. They joined in celebrations, helped their neighbors, and worried about the same things everyone else did. Lisa Chen, who had once been afraid of them, now worked alongside Rex every day. She had become one of their strongest supporters in the colony. "I was wrong about them," she often said. "They are not monsters. They are just Jake's kids." But word of the unusual Kethvar had spread beyond New Haven. Jake knew that reports had been sent to Earth about his 3 adopted children. He also knew that somewhere in space, the Kethvar homeworld had heard about 3 of their kind living with humans. Everything changed the day Captain Amy Sullivan arrived from Earth. Her ship landed in the colony's small spaceport, and she stepped out with a team of scientists. Jake recognized her type immediately. She was a career officer, smart and ambitious, who saw everything as either a problem to solve or an opportunity to advance her career. Dr. Peter Kim was with her, a xenopsychologist, who specialized in alien behavior. His eyes lit up the moment he saw Rex, Nova, and Spike working in the mining yard. "This is incredible," Dr. Kim said to Jake. "No one has ever successfully raised Kethvar from childhood. The behavioral changes must be extraordinary." Captain Sullivan was more direct. "Mr. Morrison, Earth Command wants to understand what you have done here. These Kethvar show none of the aggressive patterns we would expect from their species. How did you manage it?" Jake watched his 3 children work, while the scientists observed them. Rex was helping Nova reach a difficult spot on the canyon wall, while Spike made sure the human workers stayed safely back from falling rocks. They moved together like a family, looking out for each other and everyone around them. "I did not manage anything," Jake said. "I just treated them like children who needed love and guidance. The rest they figured out themselves." Dr. Kim spent hours testing Rex, Nova, and Spike. He measured their reactions to different situations, studied how they interacted with humans, and documented their unique behaviors. What he found amazed him. The 3 Kethvar showed empathy levels that were unprecedented in their species. They would sacrifice their own comfort to help others. They worked together instead of competing for dominance. They had never shown aggression toward any human, not even when they were scared or angry. They have developed emotional responses that we have never seen in adult Kethvar, Dr. Kim explained to Captain Sullivan. It is like they have combined the physical abilities of their species with the social instincts of humans. But the scientists were not the only ones paying attention to New Haven Colony. Long-range sensors had detected ships moving through space toward their system. The ships were not human. Commander Brooks called Jake to her office one evening as the red sun was setting behind the canyon walls. Rex, Nova, and Spike came with him, as they always did when there was important colony business. "We have received signals from approaching vessels," Commander Brooks said. "They are Kethvar ships, and they will be here within days." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The Kethvar had come for Rex, Nova, and Spike. Captain Sullivan leaned forward in her chair. "Earth Command is prepared to defend this colony if necessary, but we need to understand what the Kethvar want." "They want us," Rex said quietly. His voice was steady, but Jake could see the worry in his golden eyes. "We are their kind, but we do not act like their kind. They will not understand." Nova moved closer to her brothers. "We have heard the stories about how Kethvar live. Everything is about being strong and proving dominance. They do not work together like we do." Spike nodded. "They do not care for others the way humans do. They do not have families like we have." Jake felt his heart break for his children. They were caught between 2 worlds, belonging fully to neither. They had Kethvar bodies but human hearts. They had grown up knowing love and cooperation, but their own species valued only strength and aggression. "What do you want to do?" Jake asked them. "You are adults now. This is your choice to make." The 3 looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that families have. Rex spoke for all of them. "We want to stay here," he said. "This is our home. These are our people. You are our father. But we also want to meet our own kind, to understand where we came from." Dr. Kim had been listening quietly. Now he spoke up. "This could be the most important first contact event in human history. If we can show the Kethvar that cooperation is possible, it could change everything." Commander Brooks was more practical. "Or it could start a war. Kethvar have never been interested in peace before." Jake looked at his 3 children, now grown but still the same cubs he had found in that canyon years ago. They had grown up strong and kind, brave and gentle, They were living proof that nature was not destiny, that love could overcome instinct. "Whatever happens," he said, "we face it together. That is what families do." Outside, the stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere among those stars, HFY ships were getting closer to New Haven. Soon, Rex, Nova, and Spike would have to confront their own kind and prove that there was more than one way to be HFY. But tonight, they were still just Jakes, children sitting together in the colony they called home, surrounded by the humans they considered their family. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but they would face them the same way they had faced everything else in their lives. Together. The HFY fleet arrived like a storm of black metal against the stars. 12 massive ships dropped out of hyperspace around New Haven, each one bristling with weapons that could level entire cities. The largest ship, easily 3 times the size of any human vessel, took position directly above the colony. Jake stood on the observation deck with Rex, Nova, and Spike, watching their future approach through the transparent steel windows. The 3 young HFY had never seen ships from their homeworld before, but something deep in their genetic memory recognized the predatory design of those dark hulls. Commander Brooks received the first communication within an hour of the fleet's arrival. The message was short and delivered in heavily accented English by a voice that seemed to growl each word. "Humans of New Haven Colony, you have stolen 3 young of the HFY. You have corrupted them with your weak ways. Return them now for purification, or we will take them and punish your colony for this crime against our species." The transmission ended with no opportunity for response. Captain Sullivan immediately tried to open communications, but the HFY ships remained silent to all further attempts at contact. Dr. Kim was fascinated despite the danger. "Purification," he said. "That suggests they believe Rex, Nova, and Spike have been contaminated rather than lost. They think human influence has damaged them somehow." Rex's claws extended slightly, then retracted as he controlled his emotions. "They think we are broken," he said quietly. "They think Father has made us weak." "You are not weak," Jake said firmly. "You are strong in ways they do not understand." The HFY fleet began aggressive maneuvers around the planet. Their ships moved in hunting patterns, circling New Haven, like predators stalking prey. Long-range scanners showed weapon systems charging and landing craft being prepared. Commander Brooks called an emergency meeting of the colony leadership. The small conference room felt crowded with Captain Sullivan's team, the colony council, and Jake with his 3 children. "We have maybe 6 hours before they attack," Commander Brooks said. "Our defensive systems are good, but we cannot fight 12 HFY warships. We need another solution." Lieutenant Kevin Chang, Captain Sullivan's diplomatic officer, spoke up. "We could try to negotiate, send a representative to their flagship to explain the situation." "They will not listen to humans," Nova said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could see the tension in her posture. "To them, we are prey animals who have somehow tricked 3 of their young into forgetting their true nature." Spike nodded agreement. "In their minds, we are victims who need to be rescued from human influence, not individuals who chose our own path." Rex stood up, his full height making him tower over everyone else in the room. "We should go to them," he said. "We should try to make them understand." Jake felt his heart clench with fear. "Rex, no. If you go to those ships, they might not let you come back." "Father, we have to try," Rex replied. "If there is any chance to prevent a war, we must take it. These humans are our family. We will not let them be hurt because of us." Captain Sullivan leaned forward. "It is extremely dangerous. Everything we know about HFY culture suggests they will see your human upbringing as weakness to be corrected. Then, we will show them that human ways can make us strong, not weak," Nova said. She moved to stand beside Rex, followed by Spike. The 3 siblings presented a united front. After much debate, it was decided that Rex, Nova, and Spike would accompany Lieutenant Chang to the Kethvar flagship under a flag of truce. Jake wanted to go with them, but the three convinced him that a human presence might make negotiations worse. The small shuttle launched from New Haven Colony as the red sun began to set. Jake watched from the observation deck until the tiny craft disappeared into the shadow of the massive Kethvar flagship. The Kethvar ship was unlike anything the three siblings had ever experienced. The corridors were dark and filled with the smell of hunting pheromones. The walls were decorated with weapons and trophies from conquered worlds. Every surface seemed designed to intimidate and remind visitors that they were in the domain of apex predators. Huntmaster Vexthul waited for them in what could only be called a throne room. He was the largest Kethvar any of them had ever seen, standing nearly 9 feet tall with scars covering his dark scales. His claws were permanently extended, filed to razor points, and his eyes held the cold intelligence of a born killer. Behind him stood dozens of Kethvar warriors, all watching Rex, Nova, and Spike with expressions of disgust and disappointment. "So these are the corrupted young," Vexthul said in the Kethvar language. His voice carried the authority of absolute command. "Look how they stand. No dominance display, no challenge for position. The humans have made them soft." Rex started to respond in English, but Vexthul cut him off with a sharp gesture. "You will speak only in the proper tongue," the Huntmaster commanded. "Already I can see how deep the contamination goes. You think like prey instead of predators." Lieutenant Chang tried to begin diplomatic negotiations, but Vexthul ignored him completely. To the Huntmaster, the human was simply part of the problem to be solved. "You three will come with us immediately," Vexthul declared. "You will undergo purification to remove the weakness the humans have taught you. You will remember what it means to be Kethvar." "We remember perfectly," Rex said, switching to the Kethvar language, but keeping his voice respectful rather than challenging. "We simply choose to be more than what instinct demands." The statement caused an angry murmur among the assembled warriors. In Kethvar culture, suggesting that one could be more than their nature was close to blasphemy. Vexthul's eyes narrowed. "You choose weakness. You choose to protect prey instead of hunting them. You choose cooperation over dominance. These are not Kethvar ways." "They are our ways," Nova said quietly. "We have learned that strength can come from caring for others, not just dominating them." "You have learned lies!" Vexthul snarled. He gestured to his warriors, who began moving to surround the three siblings and Lieutenant Chang. What happened next shocked everyone in the room. Instead of submitting or fighting, Rex, Nova, and Spike moved together in perfect coordination. They protected Lieutenant Chang while demonstrating fighting skills that no Kethvar had ever seen before. They used their natural speed and strength, but combined it with tactics and teamwork that confused their opponents. They disabled multiple warriors without seriously injuring any of them, showing a level of restraint that was completely foreign to Kethvar combat. The three siblings fought their way to an escape pod, carrying the unconscious Lieutenant Chang with them. As they prepared to launch, Rex looked back at Vexthul. "We did not come here to fight," he said. "We came to show you that there is another way to be strong. But if you force us to choose between our family and our species, we choose our family." Cool. Escape pod launched just as Kethvar security forces reached the bay. The three made it back to New Haven Colony, but they had left the entire Kethvar fleet in chaos. Some of the warriors who had witnessed the fight were talking among themselves. They had never seen Kethvar fight with such skill while showing such restraint. They had never seen siblings work together so perfectly, with no competition for dominance between them. But Vexthul was furious. The escape had been an insult to his authority and a challenge to everything he believed about Kethvar superiority. He gave orders for the immediate attack on New Haven Colony. As the three siblings returned to their father's embrace, Jake could see that something had changed in them. They had met their own kind and found themselves wanting. They were caught between two worlds, and now both worlds were about to collide. The Kethvar fleet began its final approach to New Haven Colony as the planet's night fell. In a few hours, the war would begin, and Rex, Nova, and Spike would have to choose once, and for all where their loyalty belonged. The first Kethvar attack came at dawn. Their landing craft screamed down from the dark ships like metal meteors, touching down in the canyon approaches to New Haven Colony. Jake watched from the command center as hundreds of Kethvar warriors poured out, their dark scales gleaming in the red morning light. Commander Brooks had prepared the colony's defenses as best she could, but everyone knew they were outmatched. The colonists were miners and scientists, not soldiers. Their weapons were meant for protection against wild animals, not trained Kethvar warriors, but they had three advantages the attackers did not expect. Rex stood at the main defensive position, studying the approaching enemy through high-powered scopes. "They are using standard pack hunting formation," he told Commander Brooks. "Alpha warriors in front, support behind, with flanking groups moving through the side canyons." Nova was positioned on the high canyon walls where she could see the entire battlefield. Her voice came through the communication system, calm and clear. 12 groups total. The main force is trying to draw our attention while smaller groups circle around behind us. Spike was with the civilian evacuation teams, helping families reach the emergency shelters. His gentle nature made him perfect for keeping scared children. Calm, while his Kethvar strength let him carry multiple people to safety at once. The three siblings had spent years learning human military tactics from Captain Sullivan's team. Now they combined that knowledge with their understanding of how Kethvar think and fight. They could predict the enemy's moves because they shared the same instincts, but they had learned to think beyond those instincts. Focus defensive fire on the Alpha Warriors, Rex advised. Without them, the pack formations will break down into individual hunting patterns. That will make them easier to handle. The battle began in earnest as Kethvar warriors reached the colony's outer defenses. Their claws could tear through metal barriers, and their speed made them hard targets for human weapons. But the colonists had prepared carefully, using Rex, Nova, and Spike's knowledge to create traps and obstacles that took advantage of Kethvar hunting instincts. Jake was helping coordinate the evacuation when he heard the explosion. A Kethvar warrior had broken through the eastern defenses and was heading straight for a group of trapped civilians. Without thinking, Jake ran toward the danger, trying to reach the families before the warrior did. He almost made it. The Kethvar warriors. Claws caught Jake across the chest as he threw himself between the predator and a small child. Jake felt his ribs crack as he hit the ground, blood spreading across his shirt. The warrior raised his claws for the killing blow. Rex appeared like lightning, moving faster than Jake had ever seen him move. He hit the warrior with enough force to send him flying into a canyon wall. But instead of finishing the kill as any Kethvar would do, Rex knelt beside his wounded father. "Stay with me, father," Rex said, his voice tight with emotion. "Help is coming." Jake tried to speak, but blood filled his mouth. He could see other Kethvar warriors approaching, drawn by the sounds of battle. Rex would have to choose between protecting Jake and fighting for the colony. Nova and Spike arrived at the same moment, forming a protective circle around their fallen father. The three siblings stood together as more Kethvar warriors surrounded them. "You fight to protect one. Weak human," the lead warrior called out in the Kethvar language. "This proves how far you have fallen from the true path." "This human is our father," Rex replied, not moving from Jake's side. "He saved us when we were cubs. He taught us what family means. We will not abandon him." The warrior laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the canyon walls. "Family is weakness. Only the pack matters, and only the strong survive. Then we will show you how strong family can make us, Nova said quietly. What followed was unlike any battle in HFY history. Rex, Nova, and Spike fought together with perfect coordination, each one covering the other's backs. They used their natural abilities enhanced by human tactical training and emotional bonds stronger than any pack loyalty. They moved like one creature with three bodies, anticipating each other's actions and supporting each other's attacks. When Rex was pressed by two warriors, Nova was there to help. When Spike needed cover, Rex provided it without being asked. They fought not just with claws and strength, but with love for each other and for the human who had raised them. The attacking HFY had never seen anything like it. They had been trained to fight individuals competing for dominance, not siblings, working together with absolute trust. The three young HFY disabled opponent after opponent, always protecting Jake's unconscious form in the center of their defensive circle. Word of the strange battle reached Huntmaster Vex Thul aboard his flagship. He had been expecting an easy victory over the soft human colony, but his warriors were reporting impossible things. Three corrupted young were fighting better than his best hunters, using tactics he had never seen before. Vex Thul decided to end this personally. He boarded a landing craft and descended to the battlefield, bringing his personal guard with him. By the time the Huntmaster arrived, the immediate area around Jake had been cleared of enemy warriors. Rex, Nova, and Spike stood over their father's still form, breathing hard but ready to continue fighting. They had wounds of their own, but none of them had left the protective circle. "Enough!" Vex Thul roared as he approached. "I have seen what your human corruption has taught you. It has made you fight like cowards, protecting the weak instead of claiming victory." Rex stepped forward, leaving his siblings to guard Jake. "You call it corruption," he said. "We call it growth. We have learned that true strength comes from protecting those we love, not just defeating those we hate." "Words," Vex Thul snarled. "Weak human words. I will show you what real HFY strength looks like." "Then face me in single combat," Rex said, his voice carrying across the canyon. "By the old laws, you cannot refuse a direct challenge." The Huntmaster's eyes widened slightly. This was unexpected. The corrupted young was actually invoking ancient HFY tradition. But there was something different about the challenge. "Propose modified terms," Rex continued. "We fight not to the death, but until one yields. The winner shows mercy to the loser. Let us prove that strength and compassion can exist together." The suggestion caused an uproar among the watching HFY warriors. Mercy was not part of their culture. Combat was meant to establish dominance through victory or death, but Vex Thul was intrigued despite himself. "You would dare to change the ancient ways?" "I would dare to improve them," Rex replied. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been monitoring the battle from the command center, made a crucial discovery at that moment. His scanners showed something remarkable in the brain patterns of Rex, Nova, and Spike. Their human upbringing had actually changed their neural pathways, creating new connections that allowed for both predatory instincts and empathetic responses. "Commander Brooks," he called excitedly, "the cubs are not just behaviorally different. They are neurologically evolved. Their brains show adaptations that no adult HFY possesses." This information was broadcast to the battlefield, where Captain Sullivan's translation equipment made it available to the HFY forces. The warriors began talking among themselves. Evolution was something they understood and respected. Vex Thul heard the reports and looked at Rex with new interest. If the human influence had actually caused biological changes, then perhaps this was not corruption, but adaptation. "Very well," the Huntmaster said. "I accept your challenge with your strange terms. But know this, young one, if you lose, your colony burns, and your human father dies with it." Rex looked back at Jake, who was being tended by Nova and Spike. His father's breathing was shallow, but he was alive. Everything they had learned, everything they had become, would be tested in the next few minutes. "I understand," Rex said, "and if I win, you listen to what we have learned about being both Kethvar and something more." The two warriors faced each other in the canyon as both human and Kethvar forces watched. The future of New Haven Colony, and perhaps the relationship between two species, would be decided by what happened next. The battle between Rex and Huntmaster Vex Thul shook the canyon walls. Two massive Kethvar warriors clashed with speed and power that human eyes could barely follow. Claws rang against claws as they tested each other's strength and skill. Vex Thul was larger and more experienced, his scarred hide proof of countless victories. But Rex had something the Huntmaster had never faced before. He fought with both the instincts of a predator and the strategic mind of someone who had been raised by humans. More importantly, he fought with the knowledge that his family was watching and depending on him. The Huntmaster's attacks were brutal and direct, meant to overwhelm through pure aggression. Rex countered with fluid movements that redirected Vex Thul's force while looking for openings. He had learned patience from Jake, strategy from Captain Sullivan's team, and precision from years of careful work in the mining operations. The watching Kethvar warriors had never seen fighting like this. Rex moved like water around stone, absorbing attacks and responding with calculated strikes. He was not just trying to win, he was trying to prove a point with every move. When Vex Thul lunged with killing claws, Rex caught his wrists and used the Huntmaster's own momentum to throw him across the canyon floor. When the older warrior tried to use his size advantage, Rex moved to positions where agility mattered more than raw power. But the most shocking moment came when Rex had a clear opportunity to deliver a killing blow. Vex Thul had overextended himself in a desperate attack and left his throat exposed. Any Kethvar warrior would have taken the opening without hesitation. Rex pulled back instead. "You are beaten," Rex said in the Kethvar language, his claws hovering inches from the Huntmaster's throat. "But I will not kill you. Yield and let us talk about what we both can learn." The canyon fell silent. Every Kethvar warrior stared in disbelief. Showing mercy in combat was unthinkable in their culture. It was the ultimate sign of weakness. But Vex Thul, lying on his back with Rex's claws at his throat, saw something in the young warrior's eyes that changed everything. There was no weakness there. Rex had chosen mercy from a position of absolute strength. He could have killed, but chose not to. That was a kind of power the Huntmaster had never encountered before. "I yield," Vex Thul said quietly. The words carried across the canyon like thunder. Rex stepped back and offered his hand to help the Huntmaster stand. After a moment's hesitation, Vex Thul accepted the help. The simple gesture of assisting a defeated opponent sent ripples through the watching Kethvar forces. A younger Kethvar warrior named Kreshatar pushed forward from the crowd. He had been watching the entire battle with growing fascination. "Huntmaster," Kreshatar said, "I have never seen fighting like that. The young one combined our strength with something new. Perhaps we should listen to what he has learned." Other voices joined in. About 1/3 of the Kethvar warriors began talking among themselves, questioning whether their traditional ways were the only path to strength. They had seen 3 young Kethvar fight better than any of them while protecting others instead of dominating them, but the remaining warriors were angry and confused. Their leader had been defeated by someone who showed mercy, which made no sense in their understanding of the world. Some called for Vex Thul to be replaced as Huntmaster for his failure. The division in the Kethvar forces created an opportunity for something unprecedented. Rex, still standing beside the defeated Vex Thul, raised his voice to address all the warriors. "We do not ask you to abandon what makes you Kethvar," he said. "We ask you to consider that there might be more than one way to be strong. We have learned that protecting others can require more courage than hurting them. We have learned that working together can accomplish more than fighting alone. Nova and Spike moved to stand beside their brother, leaving Jake in the care of human medics who had arrived during the battle. The three siblings presented a united front to their birth species. "We offer you a choice," Nova said. "Return to your ships and continue as you always have, or stay and learn what we have discovered about combining the best of both our worlds." Dr. Rodriguez had been monitoring everything from the command center. His readings showed that the speech had a powerful effect on many of the HFY warriors. Their body language indicated curiosity rather than hostility. Vexthal, still stunned by his defeat and Rex's mercy, made a decision that would change both species forever. "Those who wish to learn may stay," he announced. "I will stay as well. This young warrior has shown me that strength I did not know was possible." The HFY forces split almost evenly. About half returned to their ships, unwilling to accept that their traditional ways might need changing. But the others, led by Kreshitar and supported by Vexthal, established a temporary camp near New Haven Colony. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. Humans and HFY began working together on small projects. The HFY learned about cooperation and emotional bonds, while humans learned about HFY strength and tactical thinking. Jake recovered from his injuries, though he walked with a cane now and had scars across his chest. He watched with pride as his three children became ambassadors between two worlds. They taught other HFY about human values, while helping humans understand that not all predators were enemies. A new settlement was established in a neighboring canyon named Harmony Ridge by the mixed community that lived there. Rex became the settlement's first leader, with Nova and Spike serving as his advisors. They created a government that combined human democratic principles with HFY respect for proven strength. Young HFY who felt constrained by their homeworld's rigid hierarchy began arriving at Harmony Ridge to learn alternative ways of living. They discovered that they could be strong without being cruel, competitive without being destructive. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, who had arrived with reinforcements from Earth, began documenting the unique culture that was developing. She interviewed families where human children played safely with young HFY, and HFY adults had learned to show affection for their human neighbors. The most moving interviews were with Kreshitar and other HFY warriors who had chosen to stay. They spoke about discovering emotions they had never known they could feel, about the strength that came from caring for others, and about how much they had learned from three cubs who grew up in a human's house. Dr. Kim published papers about the neurological changes in Rex, Nova, and Spike, proving that their capacity for empathy and cooperation was not just learned behavior, but had become biologically integrated. They represented a genuine evolution of their species, one that combined the best traits of both humans and HFY. Captain Sullivan established a permanent Earth embassy at Harmony Ridge, making it the first official point of contact between human space and the HFY homeworld. Not all interactions were peaceful, but the existence of the mixed community proved that cooperation was possible. The story reached its conclusion on a quiet evening 5 years after the first battle. Jake sat on the porch of his house watching the red sun set behind the canyon walls. His hair was gray now, and his steps were slower, but his eyes still held the same warmth that had convinced three orphaned cubs to trust him years ago. Rex approached with a group of mixed human and HFY children, all chattering excitedly about their day's lessons. The youngest, a human girl named Amy, rode on Rex's shoulders, while a young HFY male named Zen held her hand to make sure she did not fall. "How were the engineering lessons today?" Jake asked. "They are learning quickly," Rex replied with pride. "Both species have much to teach each other." Nova and Spike arrived with their own groups of students. Nova had been teaching climbing and survival skills, while Spike worked with the youngest, children on reading and basic science. All the children, regardless of species, showed the same eagerness to learn and play together. As the sun disappeared behind the canyon walls, Jake watched his extended family gather around him. 3 Kethvar, who had grown up calling him father, dozens of human and Kethvar children who saw each other as siblings rather than different species. Adults from 2 worlds who had learned to work together instead of fighting. Vexthul approached. The group, moving more slowly than he once had, but with a dignity that came from hard-won wisdom. The former huntmaster had become one of the settlement's most respected teachers, helping young Kethvar learn about their heritage while embracing new possibilities. "The evening meal is ready," Vexthul announced. "Both human and Kethvar dishes, prepared together as usual." As the mixed community gathered for their shared meal, Jake reflected on the journey that had brought them all here. It had started with 3 frightened cubs in a canyon, but it had become something much larger. They had proven that love could cross any boundary, that family was about choice rather than biology, and that 2 very different species could find strength in each other. The last light faded from the canyon walls as laughter and conversation filled the settlement. Human voices mixed with Kethvar sounds of contentment. Children of both species played together in the gathering darkness, and Jake Morrison sat surrounded by the family he had never expected but would not trade for anything in the galaxy. In the distance, ships from both Earth and the Kethvar homeworld patrolled the system together.